Welcome back to Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Mike Maddox, your host. So glad you're listening. Check out the other programs on the Michigan Business Network. There's a whole bunch of information out there for the entrepreneur, for business owners, on every imaginable area of business. What we talk about in this program is EOS and entrepreneurship and getting clarity, getting healthy, getting vision, getting traction. And Coach Bob is my guest. Bob Shenefelt has been around EOS since the very beginning. Since it was, first born. And Bob's focus, Bob, you talked about in the last segment, your passion, your focus is working with other visionaries. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, what the heck is a visionary? Let's just define that a little bit further, right? Because Traction and EOS talks about the role of visionary as a distinct role in the organization. And I think I was telling you during break that when I first heard that, and we were rolling out EOS in one of my companies, and they said, "Hey, you are the visionary. That's you. That seat is you, dude." I'm
Right.
like, I don't get it. Like, what do I do as a visionary? Like, I don't understand the role. It was
Right.
so foreign to me. So why don't you? I'm going to let you define it because you're the visionary.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, the visionary, and I didn't know what it was when I started my own business, and a lot of people don't, but it is usually the founder who sees a gap in their industry or sees an opportunity that someone has an issue or a problem, and we solve it and say, "Ooh, I think other people might want that." So we're the as Dan Sullivan calls it, the rugged individualism that we take that leap and we have the courage to go start something. We usually are great at communicating. We listen. We're problem solvers. We come up with ideas, but a lot of times, and sometimes in EOS, we call it R&D, which I'm not going to go research things, but R&D to me is asking questions and listening. And so people are like, that's a brilliant idea. I'm like, I basically listened to 5 of you, kind of simplified it and asked another question with a potential solution. They're like, wow. And so we just kind of think differently. We're tapped into intuition. We like to have fun. And often when we start a business and we can sell a few things because there's an opportunity, we sold it, we muscled through it and probably did a lot of the work ourselves and with a few other people. And then it can be hell because then we're not in, as Dan Sullivan calls it, unique ability. I call it great gift. We get out of what we're great at, which again is the energy, the culture, the core values, keeping it fun, the quirky names of things, the simple little processes that people
Yeah,
may say that's silly, but we come up with those ideas. So
yeah.
we're the motivators, usually not good at managing. And so, as Gino has researched, about 5% of us visionaries are also organized and can manage. Most of
Yeah.
us cannot or don't like to manage or to be process oriented or
Into the
simplify.
details,
Yeah,
into the weeds. And,
right.
that's interesting because, that was my experience. So, started, built the company, did a lot of the work myself, brought in more people, more people, more people. I'm still doing a lot of the work myself. And I became miserable.
Yep.
And it wasn't until EOS came along and they're like, that's because you are in the integrator seat and the
Yep.
visionary seat, and you won't let go of the integrator seat. And not only are you miserable, you're making all of this is what my leadership team said. You're making us all miserable.
Right.
Like you got to let go. And
Yep.
when I did, it was like, oh man, like then we hit Geno's from Rocket Fuel. So thank you for defining that. Right before the last break, you talked about iMatter. Your wife and you started iMatter. You
Yep.
wrote the book. You've written a number of books,
Yep.
but the book on iMatter, tell our audience about that.
So, as I mentioned before, EOS is a business operating system. And when people, my brother's an executive MBA and he sat in on one of Gino's first sessions and he's like, there's nothing new here. I'm like, yeah, but the brilliance is how simple it is that someone like me, a visionary, can understand it and teach it. And everyone in the company can understand it and teach it. So, as Gino was looking and creating those processes, I was creating processes for my life. So, like EOS, a lot of it is, are things that have been around for thousands of years and will be. But the way he simplified it and packaged it is elegantly simple, as we say. So we've done the same thing with iMatter, which is ultimately for me to act like I matter, lead with me first. A little selfish, and yet the stronger and healthier I am, and the more at peace and in the moment I am, the more productive I am, and the more I can help others.
Yeah.
So similar to EOS, it's principles, practices, and tools that we created for me. And a lot of them are, other timeless, tools and practices and tricks and whatnot. That is a simple system that has helped me to realize what matters most, clarify my who I am, and to follow my North Star. And we call it unscatter the chatter because a lot of times we call it the monkey mind or head trash or whatever, ego, which is often speaking to us, and it usually isn't positive. And then we've got all of the chatter coming from outside, which has been amplified and really the volume turned up, and most of that isn't positive. So if I'm
Yeah.
sitting there and this is driving me, this chatter, I am scattered. And so we call it unscatter the chatter, to slow down, use these principles, practices, and tools to counterintuitively spend more time with the greatest relationship I have, which is me. My wife is right up there. And so yet, but when I slow down and I listen to people and I listen to what's going on in my head and my heart, I get answers. And whether that's coming
Yeah.
from above or here, I kind of don't care. But then it's things, I have more clarity. We define self mastery as uh, commitment, clarity, and confidence. And so when I'm committed to me, and my time and slowing down, I gain more clarity and confidence on who I am and the business, and I come up with solutions. In EOS, we call that a clarity break. So
Yeah.
we talk about commit to yourself. And so what EOS did for me in business, iMatter has done for me in my life.
That's awesome. And we are up against another break, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I've got some more questions about that and some personal experiences too. But we'll do that right after the commercial break. So don't go anywhere. We've got some commercials coming up, and we will be right back after this on Getting a Grip.